What species dominated the Earth before the dinosaurs? Dinosaurs are claimed to be the first living beings to inhabit the planet Earth. However, some researchers do not agree with this. Some believe that there could have been other species as well that dominated the Earth before dinosaurs did. But what were these species called? What did they look like? Were they bigger or more dangerous than dinosaurs? Continue watching the video till the end to know more. Hey everyone, and welcome back to yet another video from our channel. We hope you guys are doing extremely well. In this video, we'll be discussing the question, what species dominated the Earth before the dinosaurs? We will be diving deep into every aspect of this topic, so if you are new to this channel, then make sure to hit the subscribe button. Now without any further ado, let's hop right into the video. There are too many animals that came before and after the dinosaurs to single out each species that was dominant in its environment during its time. Dinosaurs were an entire group of animals, not a single species. The idea of a single species that dominates the entire world is somewhat wrong. In fact, given the many diverse environments that exist, one could argue that humans do so. Though even then there are areas we cannot access. Lions may be one of the apex predators in the African savanna, but in other areas they don't exist, simply because they wouldn't be able to thrive there. That's why we don't find lions in the rainforest, for example. But I'm getting off track. The point I'm trying to make is that dinosaurs were a very large and diverse group of animals, and there was not a single species that was dominant throughout the entirety of the Mesozoic, and that they weren't even dominant in every environment. Dinosaurs never ruled the seas and the skies, were mostly dominated by pterosaurs. That being said, just like dinosaurs as a group were the dominant animals on land during most of the Mesozoic, there were other large groups of animals that were dominant before and after them. The easiest era to find the answer for is the Cenozoic, the time after the dinosaurs. As it should be obvious, the dominant life forms during this time were the mammals, and they still are today. Now, as I mentioned earlier, however, there are some exceptions to that. Especially during the early Cenozoic, crocodiles still had a very important role. The Sebocosuchia, for example, were terrestrial metazoians that existed until the Miocene. For a long period of time, birds, namely the Phorusrhacidae, were the dominant predators in South America. And Megalania was a giant monitor lizard that lived in Australia only around 50,000 years ago. So as you can see, while mammals were overall the dominant group of animals after the death of the dinosaurs, there were other groups of animals that challenged their supremacy in more isolated environments. Regular birds are still easily the dominant species in the air, despite the fact that flying mammals exist. Finding a dominant group of animals for the Paleozoic and early Triassic is much harder though. During the earliest stages of the Paleozoic, land was uninhabited. The dominant groups of that time were invertebrates, such as molluscs and arthropods, trilobites, eurypterids. As time went on, fish became a much larger presence, and while there were some animals that ventured out onto land, it took until the Devonian that one could really see diversity in terrestrial life. While arthropods started to take over the land during this time, the Devonian is known as the Age of Fish, since fish started to establish themselves as major players in the water, a position that they never gave up. Despite the fact that reptiles and mammals all have groups that adapted to and thrived in the ocean, at the end of the Devonian, the first fish started to crawl on land. Even with that, arthropods continued to dominate during the Carboniferous, with amphibians being important as well. The time of the reptiles eventually came with the Permian. The massive forests of the Carboniferous disappeared. The giant arthropods went extinct, and so did many of the large amphibians. The drier climate led to the dominant groups being different types of reptiles. Synapsids, the ancestors of the mammals, being of great importance. Parasaurs, large anapsids, thrived during that time as well. Then the Permian mass extinction took place, ending the Paleozoic and starting the Mesozoic. The Triassic was simply a weird time. There were groups of synapsids still around, Placerias and Lystrosaurus, for example, while Archosaurs started to take over various niches. Phytosaurs, Eotosaurians, Roysuchians, and eventually the first dinosaurs. So basically, first arthropods that eventually took over the land while fish started to rule the sea. Amphibians started to share the land with large insects. Fish remained dominant in the sea. Synapsids and other reptiles flourished in the dry climate of the Permian. Fish stay in the water, arthropods and amphibians lose importance. Archosaurs start to take over various niches while synapsids start to lose importance. Out of the various groups of archosaurs, the dinosaurs managed to gain the advantage and spread across the land, leaving the skies to pterosaurs and the water to different types of reptiles, which claimed the spot as top predator together with sharks. Dinosaurs go extinct and mammals rise. Crocodiles and birds remained top predators in isolated environments until the late Cenozoic. Whales and seals adapt to fill niches in the ocean, where fish remain one of the most important groups nonetheless. Like archaeologists discovering the ruins of a previously unknown civilization buried deep beneath an ancient city, dinosaur enthusiasts are sometimes astonished to learn that entirely different kinds of reptiles once ruled the earth, tens of millions of years before the famous dinosaurs like Tyrannosaurus, Rex, Velociraptor, and Stegosaurus. For approximately 120 million years, from the Carboniferous to the Middle Triassic periods, terrestrial life was dominated by the pelycosaurs, archosaurs, and therapsids, the so-called mammal-like reptiles that preceded the dinosaurs. Of course, before there could be archosaurs, much less full-blown dinosaurs, nature had to evolve the first true reptile. At the start of the Carboniferous period, the swampy, wet vegetation-choked era during which the first peat bogs formed, the most common land creatures were prehistoric amphibians, themselves descended, by way of the earliest tetrapods, from the proverbial prehistoric fish that flipped, flopped, and slithered their way out of the oceans and lakes millions of years before. Because of their reliance on water, though, these amphibians couldn't stray far from the rivers, lakes, and the oceans that kept them moist, and that provided a convenient place to lay their eggs. Based on the current evidence, the best candidate we know of for the first true reptile is Hylonomus, fossils of which have been found in sediments dating back 315 million years ago. Hylonomus, the name is Greek for forest dweller, may well have been the first tetrapod, four-footed animal to lay eggs and have scaly skin, features that would have allowed it to venture farther from the bodies of water to which its amphibian ancestors were tethered. There's no doubt that Hylonomus evolved from an amphibian species. In fact, scientists believe that the elevated oxygen levels of the Carboniferous period may have helped fuel the development of complex animals in general. The rise of pelycosaurs. Now came one of the catastrophic global events that caused some animals to prosper and others to shrivel up and disappear. Toward the start of the Permian period, about 300 million years ago, the Earth's climate gradually became hotter and drier. These conditions favored small reptiles like Hylonomus and were detrimental to the amphibians that had previously dominated the planet. Because they were better at regulating their own body temperature, laid their eggs on land, and didn't need to stay close to bodies of water, the reptiles radiated. That is, evolved and differentiated to occupy various ecological niches. The amphibians didn't go away. They're still with us today, in dwindling numbers, but their time in the limelight was over. One of the most important groups of evolved reptiles was the pelycosaurs, Greek for bald lizards. These creatures appeared toward the end of the Carboniferous period and persisted well into the Permian, dominating the continents for about 40 million years. By far the most famous pelycosaur, and one that's often mistaken for a dinosaur, was Dimetrodon, a large reptile with a prominent sail on its back, the main function of which may have been to soak up sunlight and maintain its owner's internal temperature. The pelycosaurs made their livings in different ways. For example, Dimetrodon was a carnivore, while its similar-looking cousin, Edaphosaurus, was a plant-eater, and it's entirely possible that one fed on the other. It's impossible to list all the genera of pelycosaurs here. Suffice it to say that a lot of different varieties evolved over 40 million years. These reptiles are classified as synapsids, which are characterized by the presence of one hole in the skull behind each eye. Technically speaking, all mammals are also synapsids. During the Permian period, synapsids coexisted with anapsids, reptiles lacking those all-important skull holes. Prehistoric anapsids also attained a striking degree of complexity, as exemplified by such large, ungainly creatures as Scutosaurus. The only anapsids reptiles alive today are the testudines, turtles, tortoises, and terrapins. And that's all for today. Did we miss out on anything? Do you have any other insights on this topic? Did you enjoy watching the video? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Well, that brings us to the end of this video. We hope you've enjoyed watching the video. Please like the video if you have not already, and make sure to hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to press the bell icon to never miss another update from our channel. With that being said, let's meet in another one of these videos. Until then, see ya.